Ah,
You have no idea how often I hear that song.
I can hear you, but I won't. I feel like we're gonna have a cold open for this episode. Greetings, and welcome to Skylanders Portalcasters, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything Skylanders. I am your host, Inklander, and I'm joined today by my co-host, GFDitto, and special guest star, Nagemeikenu. And in today's episode, we are going to be discussing Nagemeikenu's first time playing Skylanders. So, how are both of you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
So far, so good. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And
It should.
you are not only not familiar with Skylanders, but also your content creation isn't really based around video game kind of content creation either. You actually are more based in the fan fiction side of things.
Yeah, I'm way more used to writing about something or sometimes drawing, but not very often, and I don't publish my art, quote unquote, art. That's more for my amusement. I usually write, and I'm not necessarily a gamer either. My fandoms are based in books and movies rather than video games.
Okay. So this should be very interesting then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're pretty familiar with doing fan fiction writing for Harry Potter and for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, that's my zone.
So yes, that's what you're kind of known for in the geek world.
I wrote an Avatar
Yeah,
fanfic once.
Oh, really?
how was it?
It was okay. That was way back in high school when Avatar was still airing.
Yeah. Ah, so we didn't have the whole world building that was all there. It's like when you read a fanfic before the seventh book of Harry Potter was published, and they're like, oh, I know exactly what's going on. And then the seventh book came out, and they were like, oh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because when I wrote mine, I actually co-wrote it with somebody. I believe book 2 was just wrapping up.
Ah, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So that was pre-book 3, that was pre-Korra, that was, by today's standards, it would
Ooh.
have been pretty bad.
I mean, like, you kind of have to take into account where in fandom history you're writing, because, like, you'll see that you can date fanfic by the author's notes and what they include versus what they don't. If they include things like all rights belong to the original writer, these are their characters but my story, and that's because, well, the Vampire Diaries is the best example because the author Anne Rice actually sued fanfic creators who wrote work that she didn't agree with.
Oh,
And so they had to put those disclaimers on their fan work in order to not get sued. And even then, you could still get sued because it wasn't like actual work that could be protected. And Anne Rice is kind of known for beating down fandom a whole lot. So it's an interesting dichotomy that you can track fan work by the author's note and what they include, what they don't, and what's included in the story and what isn't.
that makes sense.
Well, if you want to check out any of Nagemeikenu's fan fiction work, you are welcome to do so. We'll have a link to their Tumblr in the
Yeah.
description below.
That is also my username on Archive of Our Own. That is the website where I post all my fanfic.
Awesome. So, in this episode, though, we're going to be discussing your first time playing through the first couple levels of Imaginators. So, I guess let's go ahead and start off with your general impressions. What do you think about the game? What do you think about the levels and I guess the background of the characters? Anything that you want to think about?
The Toys to Life concept itself.
Yeah, the Toys to Life stuff. What are your kind of initial impressions?
I thought it was a really cool premise because I now live in a household, and the reason we have all of these Skylanders things and I was able to do it is because prior to having children, the parents were really into Skylanders and they played together through the games and stuff. And they had a pretty big collection of the figures of like the games and all of the things. And then they had kids and now the kids play. And so I have kind of out of the corner of my eye made sure they weren't screaming at each other while playing, but didn't quite get the handle on what the game was until I started playing. And my impression was that mostly that it was just a cool concept to have people transporting interdimensionally, and the attitude was that you as a player are addressed rather than the character you play. Because the video games I do play are usually ones where your character is addressed and not necessarily you as a player. So that was kind of jarring for me. I'm used to being addressed as like Geralt or, the Harry Potter Lego games. I've played through those. And being addressed as like Harry, Hermione, or Ron, depending on the player you're currently using.
And that's one of the beautiful things about the Skylanders world and the lore, is that you, the Portal Master, are a character in their world.
Yeah, it was really cool. It took me a bit to get used to that because my instinct was like, why am I being involved? Just address whoever I'm using. What is this character's name? I have no idea. They just look weird.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept, and I think it's a really cool idea.
I think that one of the reasons that they did that, and one of the reasons they made the Portal Caster a canon... Sorry. They made the Portal Master a canon character in the series, is because the series started off in the first game with 32 different characters, and for them to have voice lines naming off each and every character it just seemed like too much, especially as the series went on. Now there are 339 different characters. That's way too much to expect any voice actor to record.
That would take too long. You'd never get the game out.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'd take a while.
So I'm guessing that's why the Portal Master is a character.
Yeah, that's actually a really clever way to circumvent that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's probably the reason, and I think we've only ever heard them record individual voice lines for characters, I think, once.
Superchargers.
It's... Oh, no, what? Yeah, actually, it's been a couple times then, because the first time I was thinking of is Spyro's Adventure. Because if you put any of the starter pack characters on the portal the first time, like in the first level, Shattered Island, like if you put Spyro or Gilgrunt or Trigger Happy on the portal, Hugo will say their name when he's like introing them. It's like, oh, Spyro, you're here. So that's one instance. And then you're right, Superchargers has the Supercharger challenges where they actually record a dialogue between Buzz and the characters.
Yes, but those are the only known instances.
The only other time would be in Giants with the Oracle, because the Oracle would actually call out the voice names of every single Skylander, depending on whoever you were playing as. So he would say Drobot, or he would say Trigger Happy, or things like that. Yeah. So it's actually been a couple times, but yeah, for the most part, they've not done that. And so I think the Portal Master kind of terminology is not only fun because Skylanders does a lot of fourth wall breaks anyway, but it works with the lore because like you constantly are changing out characters anyway. So I think that really kind of works. And then that way they don't really have to record multiple voice lines. So it does kind of work out for a lot of different reasons, I think.
That, and as somebody who's been gaming for decades now, honestly, I have never experienced the kind of engagement that comes out of actually being a canon character in the game's world.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, honestly, with a lot of the stuff they do with that, like in Trap Team and things like that, and you having to engage with the portal in certain situations. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought it was also kind of surprising that the way they encourage you to change characters, like the parents were like with me while I was playing, and they were like, you can switch out characters, and I was like, oh yes, that is a thing I can do. That's like the whole point of this game. You have a bajillion figures and you're supposed to use a whole lot of them depending on the situation, and they have different areas that you can go to using specific characters. They had a big penguin for like the sensei areas, and that was fun to do. He had this really good spinning move that I liked to build up, and then I never used it correctly, so it didn't work, but it was fun to watch.
So what, I guess, is your impression of having to switch out characters? Well, you don't necessarily have to, but it's kind of like highly encouraged. So do you like that? Do you not like that? Like, what exactly are your kind of overall thoughts and impressions on that mechanic?
I'm honestly not sure if I do like it, mostly because it was overwhelming at first, because I was like, oh, I have so many choices and I don't know what any of them are. Because basically what had been done is that the parents had said, okay, these are all of our favorite Skylanders. Have fun. And I was like, oh, okay. I have like 10 of them on this like table next to me, and I don't know who any of them are or what they do. I guess I'll pick this one.
Okay, so you picked the penguin one. Is that like the first one that you went with?
No, I think the first one I used was called Hot Dog.
Okay,
And
all
they
right.
had a mod where you could put hats on them, and his hat was a pair of boxers with the hearts on them.
Oh yeah, so yeah, hats are a thing where you're able to like boost stats.
Yeah, I have no
So
idea if I used that at all correctly. I just knew that there was like a pair of boxers on this character, and I was just like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we're doing.
I had forgotten hats were a thing in Imaginators.
like they carry over if they're on the figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Oh.
like hats were still a thing, but they were used in a different way in Imaginators for like creating a character. They weren't actually for like the older characters that you weren't able to create. But if you carried forward a hat from a previous game, it'd still be there. So
Oh.
yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, all those stats are added automatically, so it's not like something that you really have to like worry about or think about. They're just kind of added on to the base stats of your character.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're supposed to be able to carry the figures from game to game, from whatever console to console, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I
So all
like
those
that.
upgrades.
I like that you're able to kind of stay consistent with the characters you have used, because if you leveled up one character to a certain level, you could take it to another game and continue leveling it up. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty nifty idea of making sure that people don't feel gypped with the characters where
Yeah.
like if you weren't able to use them with a future game or if you weren't able to like take them over to a friend's house and play with the same level and upgrades as what you played on your own console and your own
Hmm.
copy of the game, I feel like a lot of people would be disappointed if that character only worked in that one game and that one like situation. So I think it's pretty clever that using these NFC tags allows them to be able to store this information on the figures.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because some characters were like really did a lot of damage, and I was like, oh, why is this? And the parent was like, oh, that character has been leveled up to like level 80 or something. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is a character you use all the time. And they were like, yep. And one of them wasn't leveled up at all and didn't do anything. And I was like, I'm dying. Oh no. It
Gotcha.
really just depended.
All right. So, who was your favorite character that you played as? Was it the penguin character or Hot Dog, or was it a different character?
The one that involved the rainbows, I don't know what they're called, but there were rainbows involved, and they were also very sassy. I liked it a lot.
That would be Whirlwind.
Yes.
Yeah, that one. I
Whirlwind's
like
fun.
that one a lot. I used that one in like the third level I played with all the books. I don't know level names. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're new to this. We don't expect you to.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll just do a deep dive and I'll look like I understand what I was doing and got really into it. And like, no. No, I'm just a noob. I didn't go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole because I didn't have time. But yes, Whirlwind was fun
Okay.
because I figured out eventually how to make Whirlwind fly,
Oh yes.
like at the very end of that level.
Yeah, that's fun. That gives you a little bit of a speed boost. Maneuverability is a bit bad, but you know the
Oh,
flying
I
can
thought
be
that was
fun.
just me.
Oh no, no! Like you have less maneuverability when you're flying with any of the flying characters.
Oh, I feel so much better about myself.
Yeah, so going off of that, you mentioned the levels, so you've played through the first couple levels of Imaginators. What are your
Yeah.
impressions of the level design? Do you like them? Do you not like them? And we're going to be talking about one of them later, but without going into too much detail about that one level, I guess just what are kind of your thoughts about the way that Skylanders levels play in general? What do you think about the puzzles, the fights, all that kind of stuff?
I really liked this one part. I have no idea which level it was. It involved a maze that you could go through, and that was fun.
Okay.
Because you could go to a place and get gold, and then go back through and go to the like end. Because like one thing I noticed as I was playing through, this game rewards exploration. if you like just go through, you miss stuff, and that can be stuff that really helps you later, and you can get rewarded for taking your time with it, which I really liked. And figuring out like what to do when and which controls to use was a challenge for me because I'm not used to consoles. But like the controller ones, because I'm just the person who plays mouse and click games with the WASD at the most. And so trying to figure out which button to hit when was a little bit of a challenge for me because I was like, oh, pretty lights, I'll just press square. But trying to figure out what to put where was kind of intuitive, so I liked that because it made me feel smarter than I am. And the puzzles were interesting and not too difficult, but it was like the very beginning, so I'm sure it got more and more progressively more challenging. But I thought it was fun to just put the things where they were supposed to go, and sometimes they were like, well, this is an option. You can move this thing here, but should you? And I was like, I don't know what you want from me. So I just kind of played around with it, and that was a lot more fun and more rewarding as I figured out, oh, well, if I do this and move a staircase here, that means I can go up to this and get this thing, and I need that thing to go to the other place, because without it, I will die. And it was cool for me to figure out what I was meant to do without being told what to do necessarily. I thought that was fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Skylanders is a pretty good game when it comes to exploration because they really like hiding things just like barely out of view of the camera. And I like that because then you might find like an Imaginite chest, or you might find some sort of like collectible that's like just barely hidden off screen or hidden in a different place that you're able to see but not able to access immediately. And so it's kind of fun trying to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, I liked that, and it also kind of frustrated me because you can't move the camera, can you? I couldn't
No, you
figure out
can't.
how to do that. Yeah, it's a fixed camera, so you kind of have to go with what you can see at that moment, and if you don't see it, you miss it.
Yeah, so you're not a big fan of the fixed camera angle. You wish it was a little bit able to be more third person.
I like when you can move the camera because then, for me, that actually encourages exploration, because if you can move the camera and you do, you're rewarded for it because you find the thing that maybe a fixed camera wouldn't let you see, because I am decidedly unobservant. And if there is something hidden just beyond the reach I am given, I ain't gonna find it. uh, like, that's just how I am as a person, so it's kind of like, well, if you let me move the camera, I have another chance to see the hidden thing, and I will move the camera once I am shown that it is rewarding to move the camera. But it was like, oh, I can't use the second joystick. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why they did that is because they knew that their age demographic was going to vary a lot, and they wanted to probably try to make the game as accessible as possible. So I think that's probably the main reason why they went with a fixed camera angle for the games.
That makes sense because there are two children in the house. You may hear them in the background. I don't know if they're being picked up on my mic, but basically they are 7 and 4 at the moment. They're really cute and they play together a lot. And if they can beat the levels, by God, so will I.
Fair.
But you have to make it accessible to those people playing because you don't know who's going to play. And if you complicate it too much, the kids are going to get frustrated.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why in the earlier Skylanders games, the first two actually, there's not even any jumping in the first two. Yeah, and that's because Toys for Bob, the developer of most of the Skylanders games, that's why I think they chose to not include jumping. I think they were worried that the whole, like, you have to move and also press a button thing might be a little bit too complicated for some of the younger players, so it wasn't included initially. It wasn't until another developer got their hands on the game that they decided to add in jumping.
Ah.
Meanwhile, some of us grew up with platformers like Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, or like classic Spyro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was
I borrowed
interesting.
my cousin's Game Boy once and played Pokemon before he caught me. That was my experience with video games at like 5.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, Pokemon's nice to like start off with because there's a lot of depth to it with the battle mechanics, but also when you're 5, you don't really necessarily need to understand some of those mechanics. You're definitely going to have a way easier time with the game if you understand them, but if you don't understand them, I think you're still going to be able to progress through it a decent amount.
Unless you're me and couldn't read at the time. But,
Oh. Okay, well, then...
reading is a necessary skill to play a lot of games.
Yeah, especially Pokemon with the whole turn-based stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just pressed random buttons, and then my cousin Oliver was like, "Why are you doing this? No, that's not how you play. Give me my Game Boy."
I'm curious to hear your impressions of the characters.
I thought they were fun. I like that they're all completely unique. I like that at least in the game that I saw, there's like this really cool one that reminds me of like a mummy, but also a goblin. And she's like sassy to Spyro, but they're working together.
Oh, Stealth Elf.
Yeah, that one. She's cool. I like her.
That's such an interesting description of Stealth Elf.
It took me a moment.
A mummy goblin.
She has cool eyes and she goes woo. I can't describe it very well. I liked her a lot. I thought the Empire Penguin was cool. I liked the one magic player I got to use because when you have to fight the Doomlanders, it's like, use a magic character. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll use this one. And it was a small bouncing ball, like not like at the beach, but like, I don't even know, it just shot purple blasts. And it was fun.
I'm gonna guess Wrecking Ball.
Is it Wrecking Ball? Like, is the character blue? Does the character like use their tongue?
Is Wrecking Ball the character that can like shoot a thing but then pull it closer?
I don't know. I'm like baffled at the moment. I don't know what character you're talking about.
I have no idea. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Possibly it's Wrecking Ball, and I'm just like making stuff up at the moment because like there are these tiny little enemies that he would shoot at, but then bring them in and kill them.
Are you talking about Jetvac?
Maybe.
Oh no!
He has the vacuum gun.
Wait, what? Describe this character more.
I think it's purple.
Okay.
And it's like a sphere, and it like...
Does it shoot projectiles?
Yeah, purple little blasts.
Is it Popthorn?
I don't know.
Might be Popthorn. It's either Popthorn or Wrecking Ball, I think.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
I think so. That one was fun because I used it against all the Doomlander stuff.
Okay. All right. Cool. Very, very cool. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the Doomlander fights that happen usually at the end of the level? Sometimes they happen at the midpoint, but they're usually towards the end. Yeah, that's the boss
fight.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on those? And I guess what are your thoughts on Chaos?
Chaos is so camp. I love him. Like... I am delighted by Chaos in general. He's bizarre and just camp and dramatic and everything a villain should be. Like Megamind, but make it this game. And I've just had a lot of fun just listening to him talk because he's ridiculous. And I think the Doomlanders versus Skylanders is okay, sure. I have no idea what prompted Doomlanders to be a thing, but Chaos is Chaos, so whatever.
Okay, so you're not really too keen on the Doomlanders, but you do like Chaos as a villain.
I like Chaos as a villain. I don't know. I think I didn't get far enough in the game to really understand what the Doomlanders are. Like, they're created by Chaos in order to fight Skylanders, because Chaos cannot fight Skylanders himself. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, that's kind of the gist, yeah.
So, like, I just see them as minions, really. Like, really tough minions that you have to fight because Chaos won't fight you himself. And when you defeat the minion, he disappears.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's sort of what they are. They are his version of the Skylanders. Basically, they're his creation crystals.
Ah.
He does have the ability to use Skylanders of his own. It's just that he hasn't since the first game. So games 2 through 5, he didn't, and then suddenly in Imaginators, he has his Imaginators.
Yeah. I think I just didn't get far enough in the game to like appreciate why he was doing what he's doing, because I have no idea what motivated him to like steal the book or like go forth and make Doomlanders, what he's trying to do beyond like give us a hard time. Like obviously he's seeking power, but like okay.
Yeah,
I,
Like
I thought his
that's the
endgame
plot.
always was just to give us a hard time.
Yeah,
ah,
like this game
okay.
doesn't have much of a plot, so I don't really think they necessarily had a point sometimes with some of this. I think they were just like, yeah, we need chaos in here to give them a boss fight.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense because I was just sitting here like, okay, this is typical solve the puzzles, boss fight. Solve the puzzles, boss fight.
Yeah,
And I'd get all the things.
Now, this game did have more boss fights than I think any of the previous Skylanders games.
I mean, unless
Oh,
I
okay.
guess you count Trap Team, if you want to call
If
all
you want
those
to call
villains
each
boss
villain a
fights.
boss, technically Trap Team had more.
Yeah,
But I really only count the Doomlander fights and Chaos as actual boss fights, because those are unavoidable.
yeah,
Yeah.
Whereas in Imaginators, you have the 10 Doomlanders, then the Chaos fights. You have 11 actual major boss battles in this game.
yeah.
Oh,
And that's not counting the Guacamole Monster.
Oh yeah,
I did not get to that point.
yeah. That's about halfway through the game. So you're
Interesting.
yeah, you're not quite there yet. But yeah, so it is kind of an interesting layout of that. So oh no, so if you're not a huge fan of I guess the Doomlanders, I guess what do you think of the actual boss fight mechanics? Like do you like the whole way that those play?
I mean, they made sense and I knew what I was supposed to be doing, so I count that in the plus column.
That's fair.
Again, I think it's because I just don't know the characters well enough at all that I just didn't know what the characters were capable of and at what points they were supposed to be doing stuff. Like, in a way, because I play Dungeons and Dragons, I understand that attacks can be maximized, but at times I was kind of frustrated because I didn't quite know how to use the character I was given, and they're just figures in a box. And they were like, this one shoots rainbows, and this one shoots fire bombs, and this one throws rocks. And I was just like, okay. um
Sounds like a lot of
Interesting.
ranged characters to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of ranged characters. None of them were holding like swords or anything. Well, there was this one really big freaky guy on a pile of skulls, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. And they were like, yeah, he's got a big sword. And I was like, okay.
My guess
I
is
don't
it's
know
Crypt
who that
King.
was.
Crypt King? Interesting. I was thinking
Uh,
Chop Chop, but
Fair.
Crypt King could work. Huh, I guess there's some undead characters with swords.
Yeah, I just was like, oh, cool. Some of these look like they're on the water. Some of them look like they're standing on a pile of skulls. Love that for them. I
Yeah.
don't know who they are or what they do.
So what did you think of the design of the figures? Do you think that they are well made? Do you like the way they look? Is there anything that you maybe don't like about them?
I love the art style that's used. I think it's really difficult to like classify types of characters, but also make them look like they belong to the same world as other types of characters. That can be a little difficult to maintain that overall kind of design, but I think Skylanders does a really good job with that. The one thing I struggled with was some of them are really big and some of them are smaller, so it's kind of like I don't know what that means. Are the bigger ones supposed to be more powerful? Are the smaller ones like the I don't even know. There's no indication of like the bases are their types, right? And so you get that. I guess I struggled with like looking at a character and saying, "Oh, this is blah blah blah." And it seems like it just takes a lot of time to figure out what on earth they all do, which takes playtime. But for a new player who looks at all of these figures and goes, I know nothing, I'm going to pick this one on this one based on pure aesthetics, and hopefully I can do stuff. So I think there's probably a way to do it without Google to figure out what on earth you're able to do without spending like an hour playing as that character. But I didn't know it. So I think in that aspect, it can be a little difficult to figure out who that character is essentially because there are so many of them available.
Yeah, I can understand that. And yeah, the base, I guess, designs are supposed to be the types. Like, if they're standing on water, it's supposed to be a water character and everything. But then also the base design changes as well, because then some of them are on pedestals as opposed to, like, being on, like, an elemental base. And that
Oh.
is weird. And
Well, that doesn't help me at all.
yeah, it's because for some reason after the fourth game, they decided to start changing the way the bases looked every game. And I think they did that to help differentiate what the new characters were, but at the end of the day, I think that was just a really bad decision because it just makes things look weird and more confusing.
Yeah, I think one of the parents said, no, you have to flip it upside down to really know the element because some of them get weird. And I was like, oh, okay. I still don't know what the symbols are. That doesn't help.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
I don't know. I think in a way it could have been because like when you play D&D, you have a character sheet and you know what the attacks are. And you can't do that with a Skylander. You don't know what the attacks are really. You just know you have a square, an X, and a circle.
The select
And
button opens up their stat page with their move tree and everything.
Yeah.
oh,
That'll, like, tell you all their moves and what buttons to use and everything like that.
well, if I had pressed that button, I would have known.
But that's okay, though. Now you know for future playthroughs.
Okay, so just like press X or something, and I'll be able to see what they are and what they can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you press select, it'll open their page, and you go down to, I believe it's powers.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it'll be like the X button does this, and stuff like that. It'll give you a whole detailed
Okay.
stuff. It's like if you press X while also pressing this button, it'll do this attack. And yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it'll detail it all out.
that would have been so helpful.
I believe we
That
just
would
blew
have
their
been
mind.
so helpful.
Yeah, I
A
think
little bit.
you're mind blown there.
A little
yeah.
bit. Like, that would have changed the entire thing if I had known I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, although they don't really indicate that to you anyway. Like, you think that's something
No.
they would tell you in, like, the first level. They'd be like, by the way, you can use the select button to be able to open up the menu to learn more about your character. Actually, that
Yeah,
would be
I wish
helpful.
that
They
had
should do
been.
that.
I wish that had been a thing, because if I had known that, I would have been more confident in how I could use with the characters.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh, press your square, press the circle, key smash, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I am a big proponent of don't know what to do, button smash, something'll hit.
That's definitely understandable. That is something that they should do. And yeah, on the different sizes of the figures, because you mentioned that some are like way bigger than others, that was just kind of
Yeah.
something that happened over time. The developer, for some reason, just wanted to keep making bigger and bigger figures, I guess because they knew they could charge more for it. Then there wasn't really
Capitalism.
any need to make them bigger, they just kind of did.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. The only time where they actually needed to make them bigger was in another game called Skylanders Giants, where they introduced giant figures. But then after
Oh.
that, they kind of just kept most of the figures to be about the same size as the giants, so then it's like, what's the point?
Okay. That completely contradicts the storytelling in this entire universe, confuses me.
Yeah, it was definitely an odd choice. The obvious answer is that when the characters came to Earth, some of them just didn't shrink as much as the core characters did. That's it. So they're correctly proportioned in the game, but they're not correctly proportioned on the figures. There we go. That's my new canon explanation, Ditto.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah,
In
there
the
we go.
fandom world, we call that a headcanon.
Exactly. Is there anything that really stuck out to you as something that you really didn't like about the game? Is there anything that you just absolutely didn't like at all?
Nothing that was like, oh, I'm never playing this game ever again. It was horrible. Why did you make me do this? God. Um, but it was more like, in a way, it's meant to be something you can explore and improve as you go along. I just wish some things like the you can look at a menu to see your character's attributes had been a bit more obvious because, like, clearly press square to do this and see what your character does, but you have no idea what square is going to do with the character you switch to. And they don't explain it after that first level. I just wish there was, like, hey, by the way, if you want to switch to a character, here's what your character does. And that would have been really helpful because I don't know if like a square is going to do like the similar type of attack even for each and every character. If I press like square and X at the same time, is that going to do the same type of move for every character? I have no idea.
The answer to that is no.
Okay, so yeah, I think that would have been really helpful to tell people, especially in the beginning levels, where you can find information about the character you're using, because, like, a new person like me is now playing Imaginators and hasn't played the games before it and has no idea what on earth these characters do. I wish that specifically had been more explicit because I would have been able to use more of my D&D background to actually fight better and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the previous game, Superchargers, they kind of do something kind of where they explain the attacks. The first time you put a vehicle on the portal, it will do like a showcase of what the vehicle's attacks do. It'll kind of just like highlight different parts of the vehicle, like it might show off the primary attack or things like that. It might have actually been a good idea if they'd done that with the Skylanders the first time you put them on a new save file. Might have been a good idea to just be like, this character can do this, and then it like drops them in. That might have actually been a good idea to like make that a little bit more obvious.
I would have appreciated that.
Yeah.
They also do something similar to that with the soul gems. When you find a soul gem, there's the option to preview the character the soul gem is for, and that gives you an idea of what they're capable of.
That's true.
Oh.
That's true.
I don't think I found a soul gem.
Yeah, soul gems can be pretty well hidden. But yeah, so they do kind of have that in some ways, but it would actually be good if they played a similar kind of video the first time you put like a character on the portal. But then after that, they just skip past that and just do the typical animation. But yeah, I could see that. That would be good for new players, so then they have at least some idea what that character does. So you definitely think that you'd be playing more Skylanders in the future? You like the experience enough?
Yeah, I think it's a really fun way to play through something, and it's not like super taxing on my brain because like there are some games I kind of have to be like, okay, this is a puzzle game and therefore I have to be in a specific kind of mindset to play. And some games are like, no, you can just play this. It's a puzzle game, but like it's also really interesting and fun and keep you engaged when you're not doing puzzles as well. Because I do a lot of Sudoku, a lot of logic puzzles, and I have to be like in a zone for that, and this allows for a bit of everything, I think, and it's a lot of fun. I like switching up the characters and pressing random buttons to see what they do.
Yeah, and you know that's a nice thing. There's definitely a lot of variety with the characters, so there's tons of different moves and different abilities that you're going to be able to use to fight chaos.
Yeah, I really enjoy the aspect of individualization. Like, you can make your own choices. You do not have to have like a specific character because there are like a bajillion characters for each type required. Like if they say, hey, a magic user would be strong here, you have like a lot of choices to make, so you can pick your favorite, and you can pick your favorite water type for a certain area. You can pick your favorite sensei figure. You can pick like, oh, I don't get to use this one very often, so I'm going to pick this one. I like that aspect of it. I like the creativity it encourages. I think the replayability with that alone is really high because you can change the way you play so easily.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, there's definitely a character for everyone. There's definitely a really good variety. And speaking of variety, one thing that we like to do on this show is try to search for different Skylanders at a bargain price, so I think it's time for a legendary treasure hunt. Welcome everyone to this week's Legendary Treasure Hunt, where we try to find deals on Skylanders for the best bargain possible. This week's challenge was to find the lot with the most Spyros, with the max price of $35. And as per usual, our scoring system is 1 point for every Spyro in the lot, half a point for every $5 under the max price you are, and minus half a point for every shroom boom in the lot. So let's go ahead and start off with the lot of our special guest star, Nagemeikenu. So why don't you go ahead and list off what your lot is, where you found it, and what price it is.
All right, so my lot has the Pirate Swords, Sky Iron Shield, Hex, Voodooed, Anvil Rain, Chop Chop, Zap, Drobot, Spyro, and Hidden Treasure. I found it on Craigslist, and it is a lot for $20. I was very proud of myself when I found this, actually.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good lot. You get a good variety of figures from the original game, Spyro's Adventure, and you also get a lot of the magic items as well, so that's pretty cool. Some stuff that'll be able to aid you on the journey, and it's also going to be coming with all the stat cards and the codes as well, and the stickers, so you actually have all the stuff that goes with these figures, so they're actually fully complete in that way.
All of the things!
Yes, so it's really cool. So, listing off your points here, you have 1 point initially for the one Spyro that's in your lot, and then you are $15 under the max price, so that gives you a 1.5.
Huzzah!
So that will bring you up to 2.5 points, and as there are no shroom booms in your lot, that means that your grand total this week is 2.5 points. I should also remind viewers that because I am hosting this segment this week, I do also have the ability to award 1 extra bonus point to the lot that I deem the coolest or the one that goes above and beyond. Congrats on the 2.5 points there, and that's actually a pretty good lot, honestly. Like, you actually have all the stuff complete for these characters. But Ditto, let's go ahead and detail out your lot. What did you find this week?
As for my lot, I found my lot this week on Mercari. It is a $21 lot consisting of 3 Spyro figures, and that's it. Series 2 Spyro, Series 3 Mega Ram Spyro, and Dark Mega Ram Spyro.
Yes, so in this lot, you are $14 under the max price of $35, so that's going to be giving you just a point there, but you also have those 3 Spyros, so that's going to be bringing you up to a total of 4 points, so that's actually really, really good. And you have a decent variety of Spyros here. You got the Dark version, you got the Series 2 version, and you got the Series 3 version, so you got a couple different Spyros across the generations in one variant, which is a pretty cool deal. So your total this week is 4 points.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now, meanwhile, I found my lot on eBay for the price of $20, and it consists of a lot of different figures, but specifically for Spyro, it includes Series 1 Spyro, and it also includes Legendary Spyro from Series 1 as well. So we have 2 different Spyros in this lot, and it also comes with a variety of other different figures from across the games, from Giant through Swap Force and Trap Team. So there's probably a total of maybe 25-30 characters in the slot total. And it also comes with some of the adventure pack stuff as well, like Dark Light Crypt, Ghost Swords, Hidden Treasure, Dragonfire Cannon, Empire of Ice, and Pirate Seas. So it actually has a variety of different things other than figures as well. Oh yes, and there is 1 Shroom Boom in this lot, I do have to say. So my initial total is going to be 2 points for the 2 Spyros, and I am $15 under the max price of $35, which is going to give me a 1.5, bringing me up to 3.5 points. However, because there was a Shroom Boom in there, it is going to be bringing me down to 3 points. However, I do think that my lot is the most impressive lot this week because it just has the most variety for $20. You're getting all this stuff for $20, and I think that's a pretty good deal. You get a couple Skylanders from across all the games, so I am going to have to give myself the bonus point this week. It happens occasionally. Occasionally you do reward yourself the bonus point, and so that's actually going to be bringing my lot total up to 4, which means that I actually tie with Ditto for the score of 4 this week.
Awesome. Good game. Both of you.
Yeah, good game.
Good job, you guys!
Yeah, honestly, all these lots are really good. If you're looking specifically for Spyro, if you're looking exactly for what this challenge is trying to offer, go with Ditto's. If you're looking for just the biggest variety possible, go with mine. And then if you're looking for a complete set of stuff, then go with Nagemeikenu's. So there's actually a little bit of something for everyone here, and it's also still meeting that challenge.
Ooh, go us!
After our legendary treasure hunt, I think it's time yet again to board the Dread Yacht and head off on our next tour for Dread Yacht destinations.
We have embarked on a new adventure and have landed the dread yacht at the Cradle of Creation, the first level of the Imaginator Skylanders game. Ditto, what did you think of this level?
I actually thought that this level was a really good opening level for a Skylanders game. It does a lot more in the way of tutorials without feeling as much like tutorials, in my opinion. So it really does a great job of preparing you for what's to come in the game. I wouldn't say it's the best starting level in all of the games, but it is a really good one.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I like the aesthetic of the level. I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of Mount Cloudbreak. I like the whole ancient ruins kind of feel of it. I think that works really well, at least on the exterior. And then the interior of it, I like how it's a little bit more sci-fi-esque. It's a little bit more kind of along the lines of the ancients and everything like that, and the Archean kind of vibe of it. So not that it is Archean, it's based around the ancients, but still it kind of still has that feel of some of those Archean levels from the earlier games. And I think that fits well with the ruins, because it's like, here's this really old sealed off temple, but then like the temple inside kind of remains exactly the way that it was. So I really like the vibe of it. I think it transitions well, but as how it is for a starting level, I think it actually works pretty well. It teaches you how to do some fighting against the Chompies, the most generic and well recognized enemy from Skylanders. And then, it teaches you how to get keys. It teaches you how to do block puzzles. It teaches you how to, do those maze sections, which occur in some of the later levels. It has the gong battle area. It teaches you about Imaginite, and it also introduces the Doomlander fights as well. And I think it introduces them all in a pretty easy to understand way. Like the block puzzle that's initially there is not too hard. It's just like pushing like 2 or 3 blocks around, and then the Chompy battle is, of course, the typical Chompy battle you get at the beginning of a level. But I think it actually just eases you into it kind of well, and it gives you a good idea of how the levels are going to play in the future. And it kind of really does remind me of Mount Cloudbreak, just like a third of the length of Mount Cloudbreak. But it's fun. I do really like this level. I think it's laid out pretty well. Nagemeikenu, what about you? What do you think about this level as a first-time player?
It was clear to me that they divided it into sections. Like, you do this first, and then you do this, and then you do this thing, and then you go here, you do this, you fight this thing, you do this, and then you know everything you need to know to play the game, basically, is the goal. And it didn't really feel like a tutorial after the first couple minutes when they were still doing the whole press square now. After that, it was more intuitive, and they let you figure it out on your own. There's an arrow on the block, but that's consistent throughout the game, and you can therefore push the block in that direction. Oh my gosh. It was really interesting to see it stop being a tutorial and start being a level, transitioning really nicely, I thought.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the first couple minutes it does have all those prompts, and it's like, use this button to, attack and all that. So it does have that at the beginning. But yeah, by the end of it, it does pretty much have you doing all the platforming and everything, and kind of encouraging that exploration on your own. The only thing that it really introduces at the end is the Doomlanders, which you kind of get at the beginning of the level. We kind of see that, because he's stolen the book. And he's kind of like taunting you at the beginning of the level. So we do get them introduced right at the beginning of the game. But as for the actual fights themselves, that's like the only thing that's really introduced at the end of the level. Other than, I guess, maybe the snail challenges where you have to like chase after the snail.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it does a pretty good job of like easing players into the game. And also I just think it's kind of fun. Like, it's an aesthetically pleasing level. A lot of the platforming, especially when you have those branching paths, I kind of like that. How you have to go down each path to be able to like, get the Imaginite and everything before you can progress forward. I actually really like that.
Yeah. I liked that there was such a contrast between the outside and the inside parts. They were completely different color schemes, so it felt like you were moving on to the next stage of something. I think that really helped with transitioning from a tutorial into a level, because you start outside and then you go inside, and it's like, okay, now you're playing.
Yeah, I would definitely think that this level kind of has that vibe as well, because when you're outside, it does have all those prompts. It has that cutscene for the Brawler Shrine and everything like that, and telling you what that is and how that works. So yeah, I would say that like pretty much once you enter into that area inside, it really does kind of change into a kind of typical Skylanders level, and I think they did that transition pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
I also really liked the Sorcerer Doomlander. It was a really wacky design. I felt it was very, very chaos.
Yeah.
And the fight itself was a lot of fun. It was a really good beginner boss battle. And they managed to do it without actually doing the Sorcerer class dirty like they did Gulper and Trap Team.
Oh, yeah. Poor Gulper.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun because in a way it made you feel competent as a player, like, oh, I can do this even though this looks kind of scary, and it helps build your confidence.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not too big of a fan of the Doomlander fights generally. I think they kind of get a little samey over time, even though they are all of different classes. It's still kind of just... It's mostly because they just kind of keep repeating the same patterns over and over again, which, I mean, is true of any boss fight, but also at the same time, this one just kind of feels a little bit samey just because they tend to always happen roughly in the same way, like at the end of a level, and it's always like, oh, you've knocked off part of their gear and all that. It just feels a little too on the nose. But that's just the Doomlander fights generally. But I do think that, you know, having a Doomlander fight the way they did at the end of the level and with the Sorcerer, I do think it was a pretty good introduction to the boss fights.
Now that we have defeated Chaos's first Doomlander, it's back to the Dread Yacht, where we head off into the Arcane Arena.
And Flynn crash lands the Dread Yacht into the Arcane Arena, where we are flung from the wreckage, actively disabling my portal and damaging Inklanders.
Oh no.
That did not sound good.
So in today's arena battle, it will be Inklander versus Nagemeikenu in a bout of theoretical combat. So Nagemeikenu, which Skylander are you going to summon to be your champion today?
I'm gonna use Whirlwind. Whirlwind is a ranged air elemental Skylander.
Yes, a ranged air elemental Skylander with a maximum health at level 20 of 810, critical hit 54, armor 29, speed 45, and luck 28. Now, tell me a little bit about Whirlwind's attacks.
Whirlwind's basic attacks are Rainbow of Doom, which is an arc blast of rainbow energy, and Tempest Cloud is the secondary ability, which sends forth clouds that electrocute nearby enemies. Whirlwind also has Dragonflight, which allows Whirlwind to fly.
Rainbow of Doom is a lobbing attack that deals 56 points of damage. Tempest Clouds deal 36 points of damage. And Dragonflight, as is typical of the original Flying Dragons, does 0 damage and just gives a speed boost and flight.
So the top path is Ultimate Rainbower. This allows Whirlwind to shoot 2 rainbows. The first attack does more damage, and attack 1 gains charge. The bottom path is the Tempest Dragon, where attack 3 does more damage, and attack 3 also explodes when hit with attack 1 by gaining electricity.
Perfect. So Whirlwind's kind of a really fun lobbing style character. It's also noteworthy that in a multiplayer game, Whirlwind can heal her allies.
Oh,
That is true.
that's cool.
Yeah, Whirlwind's actually pretty fun. I do really like her character a lot. She's honestly just a really fun character to play as. She's got a great design, good personality, and honestly, I think probably the best lobber in the game because she's way better than Eruptor and Shroomboom. That is for sure.
Yes, definitely one of the best lobbers in the series. And those Tempest Clouds can be pretty obnoxious for opponents.
Yes, definitely.
Ooh, go me.
Now, Inklander, let's hear who you've brought to the arena today.
So the Skylander that I have brought to the arena this week is Candy Coated Chopscotch.
Except that due to the damages from the crash, your portal has misfired and Shroom Boom appears.
Oh no! Oh
I
no!
win!
Well, I guess I'm not using Chopscotch. Oh no. Alright, so Shroom Boom is of the life element, and he is ranged.
Shroom Boom has a maximum HP at level 20 of 780, critical hit 58, armor 31, speed 47, and luck 23. Now go ahead and tell me a little bit about Shroom Boom's attacks.
His primary attack is Slingshot, that allows him to lob exploding mushrooms. His secondary attack is Mushroom Ring, which allows him to spawn a ring of mushrooms around him that damages enemies. Meanwhile, his tertiary attack is Launch Paratroopers, which has mushroom paratroopers kind of rain down from the sky.
The Slingshot attack lobs mushrooms at enemies for a total of 43 points of damage. The Mushroom Ring hits for a total of 26, and the Launch Paratroopers hits for 23 points of damage, assuming any of these attacks can land.
Yeah, so Shroom Boom's top path is Barrier Boost, where attack 2 gains increased damage, and charging attack 2 allows you to burrow and move. Meanwhile, his bottom path is Paramushroom Promotion, where attack 1 gains an increased rate of fire and damage, and attack 3 fires 3 mushrooms and gains damage over time. So, Shroom Boom might sound like he has some okay stats when it comes to his critical hit and his primary attack, but the main problem with Shroom Boom is the fact that he's a lobber, and while Whirlwind also fits that description, Whirlwind is just way better at aiming attacks than Shroom Boom is.
Shroom Boom's biggest disadvantage is the fact that his aim is terrible. It's extremely difficult to accurately hit any enemy with any of his attacks.
Yes, I would agree. And the thing is a lot of his attacks, other than his primary attack, are slow. Like, yeah, I could do Mushroom Ring, but that takes a moment to activate. The Paratroopers also just take forever to land, and they don't really do any damage anyway. And the Mushroom Ring is, I guess, kind of cool in that it can be defensive, but then once you're in it, you can't really do anything. It, seems like it's a good attack, but it's actually really not. So really, the only thing that Shroom Boom can kind of do is use his primary attack and hope that lands, because that's what you want to spend your time doing if you're playing with Shroom Boom, is just trying to focus on that attack 1. So I'd probably be going the bottom path here, because I just think that'd be a little bit more useful, but then at the same time, while I do have increased fire rate and damage from that initial 43, it's not going to do much. So the other major thing that Shroom Boom has as a disadvantage to Whirlwind is that the health is a little bit lower. And while, yeah, his critical hit's slightly higher, and the same thing can be said with his speed, the thing is Whirlwind's attacks are able to be comboed a lot more with that attack 1 and that attack 2 being able to be combined pretty well, especially depending on that path that you choose. But the thing is both of those are going to be dealing a significant more damage compared to what Shroom Boom's attacks are. So at the end of the day, not only is it a problem of whether Shroom Boom can aim the attacks and actually get them to land or not, but one, they're going to be dealing less damage, he has less health, and his stats aren't really that much different from Whirlwind's, which means that Whirlwind definitely has the superior advantage during this matchup.
Okay, so Whirlwind is slightly slower, so I would really more depend on accuracy and combo attacks to do as much damage as possible as quickly as possible, because you said the attacks take longer. So if I capitalize on the fact that my attacks are fairly immediate, I can then use the ultimate rainbower pathway to help do 2 rainbows, more damage on the first one, and then add a charge. So you do more damage more quickly, and basically speedrun the victory.
Yeah, if you do that, you're going to be able to take Shroom Boom's health down pretty quickly, I think, because already without that path, you're going to be doing 56 damage, and if you have increased damage, you're adding in the 2 rainbows, and you're really trying to focus on those rainbow abilities. I mean, I think it's really only going to take, maybe 9-10 hits to be able to take Shroom Boom out. And while, yeah, I am going to be a little bit faster, my base movement speed is faster, your attacks are going to be faster, your attacks are going to be more accurate, and because of that, I think Shroom Boom pretty much doesn't stand a chance here.
Yeah.
I would call this as Shroom Boom wins this 0 times out of 10, 0 times out of 100. Shroom Boom just doesn't win this. There's no chance.
Yeah.
Haha.
Shroom Boom, no.
So, for this week's Archean Arena champion, the victory goes to Whirlwind.
Haha.
All right.
Yay! Gay rights.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. Whirlwind supporting the LGBT side of things.
Good game to both of you.
Yes,
Inklander,
good
you and
game.
I should look into getting our portals repaired after this crash.
Yes, I know, yours completely cracked in half.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. I'd like to offer a special thank you to our guest, Nagemeikenu, for joining us today.
Aw, I was so happy to be here. It was so much fun.
Yes, thanks for joining us, and it was great to hear your initial impressions on Skylanders. And hopefully we'll be able to have you back in the future.
I'd love it.
You'll find our website and our individual channels listed in the description, including Nagemeikenu's Tumblr. Follow our Twitter at SL Portalcasters for regular updates about the podcast, and join our Discord server for Skylanders discussions. Thanks for listening, and in the next episode, we'll be discussing creation crystals. See you then. Bye. Oh, okay, so you're being nice.
Oh, you have no idea how nice I'm about to be.
How gracious of you.
Oh no. It's gonna be Shroom Boom or something.
Oh god.
Minus half a point for every Shroom Boom in the lot because he's such an awful character.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, we actually have negative points for one character.
That's hilarious. I love it.
This became a thing after I did a challenge speed run through Trap Team with Shroom Boom.
Yeah.
And we realized exactly how terrible Shroom Boom really is.
That's delightful. Oh my god.